Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to paint a 3D sphere. The important thing to remember for this is to paint in the direction of the contour and to add different values. So we see the light source is coming from this direction, which means the lightest part is here, and the shape has these contour lines where we can add different tones to make it appear 3D while it's painting in this direction. The reason for learning this is it helps to establish form through values and tints. The basic shape can be applied to other subjects as well, as in this expressionist painting by Franz Marc. You can see evidence of this applied to different curved areas, and this helps to create the illusion of form and depth in the work. So keep these contour lines in mind. I've drawn my sphere here very lightly. I'm going to use blue and white, and you can see I do not need a lot of paint. I'm going to be using this larger brush, but you can use a smaller one if it makes you feel more comfortable. The first thing I'm going to do is to take some of this white paint, and just for practice I'm going to go around the edge following the contour lines that I mentioned earlier, and then I'm just going to sweep in from the edge towards the inside. I'm going to add a very small touch of blue to create a slightly darker tone. If you're new to this, you see I do not put a lot of paint on. I will add more gradually later on. If I put too much at the beginning, it will look too harsh and take longer to fix. It's easier to build up than to try and take away later on. I'm also really flattening the bristles on my brush to get a thin edge. Note, I also do not have a lot of paint on the brush. So starting at the edge, I swoop my brush into the direction of those contour lines we saw earlier. I then feather the brush lightly to blend the line in. It's very faint, so I'm going to add a little more blue while it's pulling in a bit more white, and go a little bit lower onto the sphere. So tempera paint is a water-based paint like watercolor. So unlike acrylic, you start with the lightest colors first, as these colors cannot cover the darker ones. So we want to do this whilst the paint is wet, as it's easier to then blend. If you happen to add too much of the darker tone, just add a little bit of the white and feather it lightly in. You see, we kind of mimicked what we saw earlier with the light and darker tones on the photo, while it's also painting in the direction of the contour. Another option is to paint with visible brush marks similar to the Impressionists. I'm going to use a smaller brush this time and start off with the lightest tone as before. I'm then just going to apply dash marks, again in the direction of the shape or a contour. Then I add a little more blue as before, and keep slightly adding as I go down to the darker tones. Some people might find this approach a little easier, as it doesn't require smooth blending. You see, as I go up the sphere, I'm also applying less pressure. So the first example was with smooth gradation, and the second with visible brush marks. As the artist, the choice is up to you.